Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody is well. This is Nick McCreary, co-founder of Jobs4football, and I'm here with Myles Smith. Myles Smith, the head coach of Bolton Wanderers Women. Welcome, Myles.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Great, mate. Great. And listen, by the way, we've got Darren and Liam on the live chat, so they'll be arranging the questions. So potentially there could be questions popping up on the screen. Firstly, from my side, Myles, great to speak again. Obviously, we've worked with each other over a number of years now, and it's great to have you on. From my side, Myles, where did this journey start? Tell me about kind of right back at the beginning.
How far do you want to go? I think I was probably like most young lads, wanted to obviously be a footballer, and I realised at a very quick age, probably about 15, 16, that I wasn't good enough. I haven't got any sort of injury story like a lot of people do. I just knew I wasn't good enough. So sort of had to find what the next best thing was. And in my head, if you can't play football, then you want to work in football to some capacity. So started to get my sort of ducks in a row to try and achieve that. Really, going to college and obviously studying the sports courses and onto university. And it was whilst I was at university that I remember just sort of thinking, I think it was let's say 3,500 people or whatever it was graduating with the same course as me just at my university, let alone all the universities around the UK and around the world. So I sort of sat back and had a think as to what I needed to do to be a little bit different to the rest of the 3,500 that are coming out with the same degree as me, and some that are coming out with probably a higher qualification. So I got in contact with loads of different various sporting teams. Actually started off in rugby to start with. Sort of took the route of strength conditioning because I was doing a sports science degree at the time. Started off in rugby, working for Leeds Rhinos and then Castleford Tigers, which are obviously arch rivals. And then sort of always knew that football is where I wanted to be. That was always my sport. So very early on, I think it was my second year of university. Wrote to numerous clubs and got a response from West Ham, and started to basically go in there and do a bit of a placement year with them, if you will. Did a year with West Ham with their men's under 23s as a assistant sports scientist, and obviously that was an unbelievable experience because that was pretty much my first role in football. A lot of people sort of work in grassroots football and try and work their way into academies and all the rest of it. My first role from the off was in this professional Premier League club. And not only that, it was working with the under 23s. And, a lot of that obviously cross sections into first team. So I was working with some of the best young talent in the world. Declan Rice, Josh Cullen, Grady Diangana, Lewis Page, George Dobson. The list goes on. But some of these players I was working with, not only that, the first team players as well. So I threw in right at the deep end. And I remember my first day at placement, I walked in and I looked around and I saw there was probably around 15, 20 students that were all in a similar position to me, analyst students, sports science students, coaching students. And I did a similar thing, really. I sort of looked back and sort of asked myself, what do I need to do in order to get a job at the end of this? There's 20 people here that probably all want a job. What have I got to do? How can I make sure that they give me a job at the end? And it worked, whatever I ended up doing worked. And I stayed on at West Ham for a couple of years working with the men's team, and then transitioned across to the women's.
I think sometimes, Myles, as well, sometimes individuals have imposter syndrome. And it's a lot of, we have a lot of kind of conversations with members about this. They go into a role, they've never been in that environment before, and sometimes they're a little bit kind of starstruck. So kind of what's your advice in terms of when you went into that environment? How did you deal with, you probably saw Declan Rice on the TV or on Championship Manager or Football Manager, etc., and then there you are kind of next to him, kind of coaching him. Kind of how did you deal with that should I be here question?
I think, well, at the time, I think I was young and probably quite confident at the time. But at the same time, as you say, I remember my first day, I got asked to do my very first task. And it was something simple like go and get go and get those cones or something like that. And I remember I wanted to do it as quickly as I possibly could, you know, being eager, wanting to impress. So I ran across these beautiful, like, carpet pitches, like, you know, untouched pitches. And I ran across them thinking that's the fastest route to get to A to B. And the groundsman at the time, Dougie, he yelled from across the training ground as loud as he possibly could in his Scottish accent, "Get off my pitches." And that was my very first 10 minutes at the club. And I was thinking, oh, brilliant. My God, I am not going to survive here. Because you know, as we know, football environments can be tough places to be, and you have to be thick-skinned. And as you said, I think what I sort of realised from that very first task is, okay, let me take a couple of weeks just to step back and just to analyse this environment and see how they work and see what they need from me, and then I can go in and try and do my thing. But yeah, I think stepping back and taking a look as to what the environment affords and what's needed is I do that still today in my coaching jobs, in new roles that I go in. I often take a step back and say, okay, what's this all about? What does it need? Where are the gaps? What can I do? What can I bring? And then I go in and do my thing. But I think stepping back to start with and analysing the whole place is probably the advice I can give.
No, definitely. And I think there's not a kind of a one rule fits all as well. Every environment is very, very different. You know, heads of academy or head coaches or sporting directors run their sporting ecosystems in a all different way. So yeah, from my side, that's a great kind of story. So moving on from West Ham, what was the next step for you?
So I finished off, it was my boss at the time, a guy called Greg DeCarnis, who's a very good guy, a very good friend of mine. He sort of took me under his wing when I was in the sports science department. He moved across to become the women's team manager. And it was at the time when Jack Sullivan had taken over the women's team, and we were going full-time professional into the newly formed WSL. So it was an exciting time, and he wanted me to go over and support him in that. So I went over and moved across to women's football, and then cut the long story short, really worked at West Ham Women's for numerous years in various different roles, mostly sort of assistant coach and first team coach and academy director. And then sort of 4 or 5 years under different managers there. The time was right to move back to the north of England, where I'm originally based. So came back to Manchester. Had a few months out. 10 years, I think I was at West Ham. Obviously takes its toll. Needed a few months. Needed a bit of a breather, and then got the role at Manchester United, helping them with their recruitment. And then went out. Really, thanks to you guys, into Saudi Arabia and back into an unbelievable project there as assistant manager, and then came back and now at Bolton heading up the women's team.
Great, and we'll get to those points in a minute. So from my side, how did you find the transition going from the men's environment straight into the women's environment?
Yeah, it's a question that often gets asked. I think, you know, people always ask, what's the difference coaching men and women? And the way I look at it, you know, whatever environment I've been in, it's full of different individual people, and everybody's completely different. So yes, of course, there's differences between coaching men and women, but there's differences between coaching, you know, one male player and another male player, or one female player and another female player. So you have to almost have a look at, you know, what that environment needs and what each individual needs. I think being part of the women's game, you know, since I've been in it, I've never looked back. It's been such a great thing to be a part of. You know, you're surrounded by people that want to drive this industry and want to drive this game, and everybody wants to do well, and everybody wants to empower it and get it to as good as it can possibly be. And being a part of that gives you energy, it gives you life, you know. So, you know, it's something that everybody always says, would you go back to men's? And, you know, obviously the question's never no, but at the moment, you know, since being in women's football, it's been a breath of fresh air, to be honest.
No, definitely. And long may that continue. So in reference to obviously Jobs for Football then, how did you first come across us, and how has our kind of relationship from your side developed over that period of time?
Yeah, I think it was through a good contact of mine. Obviously, in football, contacts are extremely important, and networking and all the rest of it is really important to do. And I had a contact that was working I think his role was academy manager in Asia at the time, and he sort of recommended you guys, really spoke highly of you, and I think it was you guys that got him out there into that role, and had looked after him for numerous years. And this was a guy that I trusted wholeheartedly, and anybody that he recommended, I trusted the recommendation. And he sort of wanted me to go out there and put me in contact with you guys. This was many years ago now. I'm talking maybe 7-8 years ago off the top of my head, maybe a little bit sooner than that. But yeah, it was the first experience I had with Jobs4football in sort of giving me all the information about that role and that club, and going out there in the country and what to expect, and helping with the discussions of the sorting out the flights and the visas and the contract talks and all the rest of it. And then, to be honest, since that experience of working with Jobs4football in that first role, it's again, I've not really looked back. It's I've had you guys in my corner looking after me since that day. And to be honest, I'm not just saying it for the interview. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for the support. The stuff that I've learned across the way, the growth of my profile, the opportunities that have been afforded to me. I certainly don't think I'd be here.
And I think it was within that time when you made that transition to Saudi Arabia, it was a really difficult time to recruit in Saudi, because if you remember, Ronaldo had just gone there. There wasn't the kind of positive news coverage in reference to Saudi, and especially not within women's football. So as we were recruiting, obviously it was difficult to get top tier candidates to even entertain a huge club like Ittihad Club, and I think we got a really solid team moving forward with that opportunity. But from your side, when you landed there, what did you see in terms of Saudi women's football at that time, and how could you see the vision kind of moving forward within Saudi's women's football as a whole?
I think I saw a bit of a blank canvas, and I saw a project that was super ambitious, not just from Ittihad Club, but from the whole nation of Saudi Arabia, and what they are pushing to achieve, what they're trying to achieve. And I think any role that you take in any industry, really, you want something that's ambitious. You want something that's got a lot of legs, and something that you can mold and get to this, this place where you want to try to get to. And as you said, I was able to help start that process for women's football out in Saudi Arabia. And I think for me, one of the reasons for moving was to be able to have this change, have this growth of women's football in a country that many, I'm sure, wouldn't have thought that is even possible. So, I remember the first phone call that I had with you guys, and I remember you saying, "Oh, there's an opportunity here, and there's one in Saudi Arabia." And I remember thinking, "Oh, God, that's a bit of a stretch." I think it was a scary place to go. I've never visited the country. I've never coached abroad before. But the information that I got from you over the many phone calls that we had, and it was just too good to say no. The project and what was going on out there, and the vision and where they want to get to, and the growth they want to get to, it was too good an opportunity to say no. And it was certainly one of the best years I've had in football out there. And it will continue to grow out there. I've got no doubt about that.
100%. And what kind of surprised you about the people, the culture, the environment, the facilities, the league? Were there any kind of huge kind of surprises that you had?
I think I didn't know what to expect. Obviously, in the Western media, it's fueled by a lot of headlines and a lot of stories, and I wasn't really too caught up in that, because I try not to read too much of that type of stuff. But at the same time, I hadn't got a clue what to expect. I remember when I accepted the role, I think I had a couple of weeks before flying to do as much research on the country and all the rest of it as I could. So YouTube videos and Google searches, but you never know if the information is accurate. And you guys obviously helped present accurate information, and that's what gave me confidence in taking the role. But from arriving there, it was just so overwhelming with the how open and welcoming and warm that everybody in the country was. They were so supportive and happy that Westerners and people from the UK had given their country an opportunity, given their opportunity a chance to see what it's like, at first hand, rather than what people may say or what news articles and outlets may say about it. So, I mean, we used to go to the supermarket after training, and if we hadn't got changed and we had an Etihad top on, you could barely get out of the supermarket. You could, people just surrounding you, Etihad, Etihad, Etihad. And oftentimes what can happen in England or the UK is you're stuck in a lift with someone and you've got your trackie on, and who do you work for? Or, Bolton, or what team, or women, or Man United women, or whatever. And the conversation almost comes to a bit of a pause there, because either they are not too sure about women's football, or they're more interested in the men's side of things. But in Saudi Arabia, you'd have that same conversation. Who do you work for? Women, and they'll know so much about it. And this was just some random guy or some random woman in the supermarket that know more than you about the league and the statistics and how many goals you scored last week and the players that you have and how amazing it is. And then they'd invite you to dinner. This person that you just met, they'd invite you back to the house for dinner, and they'd want to give you their watch, or they'd want to give you some sort of present or prize. And it was just an unbelievable place to be. And the support of the whole nation for women's football was just unbelievable. It was magic to see. And being a part of that is obviously really refreshing and really rewarding at the same time, because you go out there, yes, we go out there to win football matches and to win leagues and all the rest of it, but you also go out there to any country in women's football. You have an objective to grow the game, and to shine a light on the game, and obviously that was a big reason for the move. But as I said, the country in itself couldn't have done anything more for us. The setup of the football club, the pitches we trained on were fantastic. We were training next to some of these top players, Benzema, Jota, Kante. We were training alongside them. We'd share the same facilities as them. Just the whole experience from top to bottom was unbelievable.
And I think what's amazing about it is it's gone from 0 to 100 so quick. From some of these girls, women that you were working with hadn't even kicked a ball maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, and now they're coming into a real kind of professional environment with professional foreign coaching staff. And, I think, obviously, the national team manager. I think from that side, not just on a domestic front, but hopefully internationally, the nation will grow within the women's football scene. So in reference to do's and don'ts then, so you're a foreign coach going to a foreign land, you've never been there before. What would you say were your key takeaways in terms of your do's and your don'ts on the pitch and off?
I think I'll start with sort of the do's. I'm sure there was a few don'ts that I learned, but I think with the do's to start with, I think similar to what I said previously, I think you've got to go in and be open-minded. You've got to understand that this isn't your country, this isn't your culture. Things are slightly different with where you're going to be and where you're going to go, and people do things differently. And there's different rules, and there's different, ways of doing things, and there's different food, and there's different sleep hours and all the rest of it. And you've got to be open-minded about all of that. And you've got to embrace that. You've got to try and work with that rather than working against that. I said when we was over there for a couple of months, that who are we to come into this country and say, this is how we do things, this is how we now do things, because who are we to say that? That wasn't our country. We were visitors there. Who's to say that we know best? So yes, obviously you have ways of working and you put in a program and a schedule and all the rest of it, but you have to work within that culture and that country. As an example of that, because of the heat out there, a lot of the players don't wake up sometimes till 1 p.m., 2 p.m. in the afternoon because it's just so hot. The country doesn't even come to life until 5 p.m., 6 p.m. You could be in the streets and you don't see anybody. And I was one of those foreigners walking the streets at 1 p.m. and people would look at you funny, like, what are you doing out in that heat? But you have to again try and understand that. There's no point when you stay overnight in a hotel having a 10 a.m. meeting like you would in England when there's an 8 o'clock in the evening kickoff. Players, as I said, are used to sleeping, used to staying in bed. Obviously, you have the religious commitments over there that obviously you have to be supportive of, and when it comes to things like Ramadan, understanding and educating yourself around all those bits, and also, as I said, trying to fit in and trying to show that you're here to support. And I remember, I think I did around 18 days of fasting at the time during Ramadan, just to try and show that, I want to experience what you guys experience. And it's tough. It was really, really tough during that period. And we have to understand that as coaches, right? Because you've got a group of players during Ramadan and they're struggling in training and they haven't got the energy levels, and it comes to iftar and they're having their refeed right before training and therefore they feel a bit sluggish. So what I wanted to try and do is put myself in their shoes, and I would have a big refeed before going out onto the pitch, having not drank or ate all day in that type of heat, and I'd feel sluggish and I'd feel terrible, and my coaching wasn't quite there and I wasn't as energetic. And if I was feeling like that, how must the players have felt, So I think certainly trying to embrace whatever environment you find yourself in, whatever country. Every country has its different nuances and different rules and regulations and laws, and trying to embrace that rather than trying to fight against that. I think if you fight against that, you start on a losing battle from the start. And I think at the same time, trying to engage with people out there, trying to go above and beyond to engage with as many people as you can. I got to know, thanks to yourselves and the contacts you have out there, I got to know some unbelievable people, some very amazing people to start with, but again, some very influential people in that country. And I'm talking some of the most influential people in the sporting scene in Saudi Arabia. And still in contact with them today. And as I said, networking is key in this game, as we know. I think I remember the very first week I got there. A bit of a side note, but I sort of do triathlons. That's my kind of hobby, and I was trying to maintain the training out there. And the very first week, I remember I think it was the second or third day, I went and did like a run, thinking I need to go get 10K done or whatever it was, and it was 38 degrees, and I thought, I'll be all right. And I was running at about 11 a.m., 12 p.m., and I had all the locals in the car stopping the cars and beeping. And I had an ambulance pull alongside me and put its lights on and check if I was okay. I think I only managed about 4K, and I had to turn around and go back to the apartment, put my head in the fridge. So, yeah, that's probably certainly.
And I remember as well, you looked like the Pink Panther afterwards. You were still
I remember you coming to check on me in the apartment. I think I was laid out with my head in the fridge, trying to cool down with the aircon on full blast. So definitely don't go for a run in the day, acclimatise first. But as I said, I think there's not many don'ts there, I guess, but you can almost reverse what I've said. I think you certainly have to try and embrace the culture and all that it offers, rather than the opposite of that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And there's so many kind of examples that I can give as well in terms of how being oblivious to culture really makes a massive difference within the engagement of the football team. I know two examples, for example, of a British coach going over to Asia. And what I always say to them, don't take literally what you do in the UK over to that region, because you can't replicate it. A big thing in Asia, for example, is you cannot single out a player one-on-one in front of a group. Maybe in the UK you can have a pop at somebody, and it's just water off a duck's back. It's not a problem. But especially in Asia, there was one coach I'm not going to name, but first day, second day, went in and gave one of the players a rollicking in front of the whole team. He wanted to make a statement, but within 3-4 days, that whole team had turned on him, and he got sacked within 6 weeks. So from that side of things, that's not being clever and embracing the culture before you come into an opportunity. You cannot replicate every time what you do in the UK, France, Germany, Italy, in these other countries. You have to respect the culture. So yeah, listen, great point.
And I think you make a good point,
so your
mate.
time in.
Sorry, mate. I think you make a good point. To add to that, I definitely like a believer that you can't copy and paste a model of what you've done previously from, in my opinion, from club to club or team to team, group to group, let alone country to country. And it goes back to what I said earlier. I think whatever environment you step in, especially when it's a different country, and especially when it's a different country with a completely different culture, you have to just almost stand back to start with and just observe and pick up and take in all the information you possibly can. And then that allows you to say, okay, this is going to work. This isn't going to work. I really want to do that, but I probably shouldn't. And, it's not, like you say, it's not going to get the team behind me and all the rest of it. So that observation piece, I think, is crucial when you very first walk in.
Great point, Mike. Great point. So recently returned to the UK for a really exciting project with Bolton Wanderers, and I remember us talking about it, and I know you were kind of blown away by the passion of the club, the passion of the people inside the club to make this a real exciting project for the long term for Bolton Wanderers women. So yeah, give me a little kind of synopsis of it, really.
Yeah, I've been really lucky to be presented with the opportunity. I remember at the time, I think I was on holiday, and again, you guys helped with putting it all together for me, so I appreciate that. But yeah, I was really lucky that I went to got back from Saudi and went to go meet a few different clubs. And as I said before, my role has always kind of been as assistant manager, mainly with different other various roles, but mainly as assistant coach or first team coach of some capacity. So I was sort of ready to step in and give the head coaching role a go myself. And I was offered a few different assistant coaching roles or first team coach in the WSL and a few in Europe with thanks to yourselves, and another one in Saudi Arabia again with thanks to yourselves. And I remember going to visit Bolton and going to the stadium and meeting the CEOs. And I was thinking before I got there, the chances of me taking this job are quite slim, to be honest. With all due respect, the level that they're at the moment is lower than what I'm used to. I've been offered another job in Saudi. I've been offered another job in the WSL, and but I, like with your advice, go and see what they're about. Go and listen to them. Go and see what they have to say. And I remember walking out of that meeting and actually giving you a call straight away and thinking, thank you so much for telling me to go, because with what this club is trying to do and what they told me in that meeting, I was just absolutely blown away from the very first meeting. Again, it was too good a project to say no to. Bolton women at the moment find themselves on a journey where they want to get to the top. They want to be a full-time professional women's team. They want to represent Bolton, represent the town, represent the place, represent the club as highly as they can on the highest stage in women's football. And we're on a journey to progress to that. And what the club's support and the club's backing from me stepping in since July the 1st has been unbelievable. It's been brought into the main club this season. Previous to that, it's sat within the community, which I must say have done an unbelievable job of carrying the women's team to this year. Produced a lot of fantastic players that are either playing for me now or playing for Man United or for Liverpool or Everton or local clubs. But this was the year that the club wanted to bring it into main operations and go, 100 miles an hour and trying to get us as on our journey to reaching the top division. And 20, I think we're 29 weeks in, and the program that we've created, I'm super, super proud of, not for myself, but from the team around me, from the club, from the players that are involved. We're pretty much operating now a program that rivals, I'd probably say championship clubs, 4 leagues above us. And that in itself, to create that in 28 weeks, 29 weeks is unbelievable. The club have backed everything.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, and I think it's all due respect to the management committee, the CEO, and the club for basically backing you on the pitch and off the pitch.
100%. They've been unbelievable. Everything that we've needed, they've supported us with it, and they said that in the very first meeting. And obviously, you have these meetings, and you try and suss people out, and you think, is this going to be legit? Is they going to do the? And obviously, you put trust in someone. You put trust in a club to deliver what they say, and they've done it. They've done it, and they continue to support this women's team. They continue to back it, and it's thanks to that, as well as the group of players, as well as the group of staff I have around me, which is why we're at the moment in a very good position to hopefully achieve promotion and win the title in year one.
So what's the goal longer term? Is it to get to that WSL status?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think in women's football, the club they've got an ambition to drive throughout the leagues. I think you get to sort of the championship, and then you have to probably reevaluate to make that jump from the women's championship to the women's Super League is a massive jump. It's a huge jump. So I think that we get to the championship and we evaluate from there. But the club wants to get throughout the women's pyramid as quickly as we can, but also to make sure that it's sustainable, to make sure that when we get there, we stay there, and we can stay there both from a financial perspective, but also from a performance perspective as well. You've only got to look at a few clubs around this area and a couple in the south that are at the minute on the way down the pyramid, and they've always been in the Super League or the Championship, and at the minute they're on a slippery slope down because they can't longer keep up with the investments, or they can't back the women's team anymore, and or the performances out there. And we don't want to be that club. We want to get up there and stay there, and that's ultimately the ambition. And that's what drew me to the project: a chance of managing for the first time, head coaching at a competitive level for the first time, and being in such an ambitious project is, you put two and two together, it's a no-brainer.
And you've been able to delve into your kind of little black book in terms of your network to get loans from local clubs. I think you've got one. Have you got one from Everton?
We've got a few, and like you said, networking super important. So working at the top end of the women's game for 7 years or so helps with that. We've got 2 on loan from Everton. We have a couple from Blackburn, but we're constantly in conversations with your so-called bigger clubs around us in the northwest, and having those contacts certainly helps with that. But not only the loans, we've signed some unbelievable players that have dropped from 3-4 leagues above. If you was to put that into the men's game, for an analogy, I'm talking, if you drop from men's championship all the way to men's national league, that's what we've managed to do this season. And that's because, again, the players that we've brought in and signed have been able to see the journey that we're on, and almost, jumped on the boat before it's too late. Because, again, similar to what happened in Saudi Arabia, my phone is now ringing quite a lot with players wanting to come and join us. And for some of those players, unfortunately, that it may be too late. But for those that were mature and did it early, they're on this journey with us now.
Brilliant. No, it's great. And like I say, you're not doing too bad this season, are you, really?
No, we're doing okay. We've put ourselves in a good position to hopefully achieve what we want to achieve this year. At the moment, we sit top of the league, 6 points clear, and in a couple of cup semi-finals and quarter-finals. So we're there or thereabouts at the business end of the season, which is all you can ask for.
Touch wood. No, great. And listen, from your side, in terms of your professional development and your personal development, you've got your way for A coming up as well?
Yeah, again, I mean, this sounds like I'm just trying to, I've struggled for many years trying to get on that course, as many people do. I managed to get on a course way back when I was working here before going out to Saudi, but then I made the decision to go out to Saudi, and obviously had to cancel the course. That was a big decision to make, but definitely the right one. And then, as I said, been sort of trying to get on the course for many years, and it's so hard to get on, as most people know. But again, thanks to you guys, managed to secure a course this year. And again, with it's about contacts, isn't it? With the contacts that you have and the help that you've done with my CV. I remember when I first sent your team my CV, thinking that I'd got this CV that was great, because it's got West Ham on it and Leeds Rhinos and Cas Tigers and Man United. And I remember sending it thinking, yeah, it's a good CV. It's got these clubs on it. And I remember you just absolutely ripping it to shreds in a nice way.
Positive way.
Positive way, exactly. But I look back at that CV now and it was embarrassing. Like the CV, the design, the language on it, the layout of it. It was a pathetic CV. And I look at the one that I've got now, thanks to you guys, and it's no wonder that the opportunities have been coming a little bit more. But yeah, on the UEFA license now.
Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. And I think it's just kind of what we said right at the start as well. It's making yourself different. The market is so competitive. How many people are applying for the UEFA? Do the basics well. Get your personal branding correct, and you'll be on. At least the door will be ajar. So no, great. No, listen, from my side, as we wrap this up, and I know we've got a couple of questions as well, but as we wrap this up, Myles, what advice would you give those young coaches out there who are aspiring to be on a coaching journey similar to yours?
I think first and foremost, get stuck in. I think try and make yourself different to the thousands of people that want the same job as you, because there is thousands of people that want the same job as you. So in some way you have to make yourself different, and oftentimes the best way to do that is to give yourself that bit of experience, or give yourself that role on the CV that somebody else might not have. And that's a difficult thing to do. It's difficult to break into the environment, but I think the way you can do that has been by being proactive, working and trying to get into clubs and trying to write letters and trying to knock on the door of a training ground one day and say, can I just collect the water bottles for you? And I remember one of my first roles at West Ham, it was to collect all the lads' urine every single day, and that was one of the roles, just to do that every day.
Cracking role.
But I've
never seen that on a job description.
Well, do you know what? I really didn't care doing it, because I thought, this has got me in, and now I can show my skill set from here, and hopefully I don't have to collect urine for the rest of my career. But you always have to start somewhere, right? But I think as well, I mean, I hope you don't mind me saying this, I was always one of the people that I didn't think I needed support. I didn't think I needed somebody like yourselves to support and help me, and I thought that my CV was okay, and I thought that there's no need to pay for that service. I can do it by myself, and I was so wrong. I was so wrong, and I think that having that backing and that support from the experts, because for us and for people that want to break in the industry, we're so busy doing our thing. We're so busy trying to, get into that role or find that role, or if we're in a role, we're so busy with the role that you don't have much time to work on your CV, and also you don't have the knowledge and stuff to branch out and make your profile, out there, and sort your LinkedIn out and help secure contacts and network and all the rest of it. So I think going to experts like yourselves that can help with that and take care of that for you makes a massive difference. I mean, I said it before, I wouldn't be in this role. I wouldn't have got the opportunity in Saudi Arabia, and I wouldn't have some of the job opportunities that are coming my way still now, if it wasn't for you guys working with you over the past 5 years or so.
No, I appreciate that. And listen, Myles, thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you are, and I think you've got a game coming up this weekend. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
I'm not sure whether we've got one or two questions, if it's okay. One question that I saw pop up there before was, okay, where do you guys see the women's game in the Middle East going as a gateway for development? I'm not sure whether that's a gateway for development holistically or within football, but far away.
It's a great question, and it's nice to know that people are interested in women's football out there. I think in terms of the women's game, the Saudi women's game, it's growing at an unbelievable rate. I can't name the stats and numbers off the top of my head, but the growth of female participation out there is rapid. It's the thing in Saudi Arabia is football is the first sport out there without a doubt. It's everybody's first sport, probably second sport and third sport. They are football mad. And I think that the women's game out there, I said it before, I think it's got the potential to be one of the strongest leagues in women's football in years to come. With the Saudi 2030 vision and everything that they want to do for the country and grow the country, women's football and women in sport is a massive, massive pillar of that. And they're not stopping. We see all the headlines every day around some signings and some players that are linked to the men's side of the game. But sort of, I guess so, a little bit more quietly in the background, the women's game is growing massively. You said it before, head coach Luis is ex-Barcelona manager. He's won the treble with Barcelona. He's had an unbelievable, he's worked at the top level in women's football. He's the national team coach out there. We're talking one of the best that there is. He's growing the great game unbelievably well. And there's some players out there, that I think a lot of people will be surprised at the level. There's players out there that I worked with that play for Saudi national team that could play at a tier three level in England, and some potentially at a tier 2 with some work. So the level is growing, and like you said before, Nick, they've only been playing the past 3 to 5 years. Prior to that, they were playing underground and sort of had to organise their own kickabouts and stuff. So they've not been playing for a long time at all, and it's certainly got legs to be absolutely massive, both the women's game and the development and all the rest of it.
I'm not sure whether you saw as well. I saw this yesterday or the day before. The UAE national team coach, the women's national team. I'm sure, correct me if I'm wrong, there's the previous head coach of the Irish women's team.
Right, okay. I've not seen it. Maybe, yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people can correct me on that, but I'm sure that announcement was made yesterday. So again, it's showing that maybe the UAE are looking to replicate what Saudi are doing within their own kind of country. And I know that they're really focused on setting up their own league moving forward. I know that the youth side of women's football, girls football, especially in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, is growing so quickly. We put a lot of coaches out there who are specialized within the women's game and the girls game. So no, I think it's only going one direction. I think it's a real positive thing, both on and off the pitch.
100%. Yeah.
Brilliant, Myles. If there are any other questions, Daz or Liam, please do pop them up. If not, no problem at all. I thank you so much, Myles, for your time, as always. Thank you to all the listeners. Like I say, with the Jobs Football podcast, we want to do at least 2 of these every month. I think it's great to engage with members who are proactively out there within the industry. And like I say, please do keep checking out www.jobs4football.com. Have a look at our services and our jobs board. And like I say, we hope you have a great day and we keep in touch. All the best. Thank you so much. Thanks, Myles. Good luck.
Yes, thank you.